Okay, so guys, to begin, I started off with some sketch paper, and I used a pencil. You can also use a marker. You will also need some scissors or something to cut out your stencil. I use scissors and maybe a box cutter if you want to. I also use some acrylic paint that I had left over. Yeah, I just wanted to see if this would work on the cloth fabric that I was using, but I would recommend to get some kind of fabric that is made to go, some kind of some kind of paint that's made to go on the fabric. So here you can see I already drew up and started cutting out my stencil. And as you can see, I'm just using the box cutter so I could get perfect lines, or as straight lines as I can possibly get. And I'm using a piece of cardboard, what is wrong with me? A piece of cardboard on the bottom so I don't scratch anything up. When you're doing this, make sure you know if you want the paint to go, if you want to fill in the stencil, or if you want to, like, for example, you can also cut out the letters and then paint, and then stick the letters to your shirt and paint around them, if you get what I'm saying. So make sure you keep that in mind, because I actually wanted to do it backwards, but I in the end chose to just, cut the stencil out and paint the inside in. Also, as you can see here, I am cutting out these really small pieces. Next time I might not do them so small, because even though it's not that big of a deal with the bleach that I put on top, it did kind of go in other places than I wanted it to go, or went outside of the stencil, basically. So yeah, I'm just gonna finish cutting it out and try and make the outline as perfect as possible. And as you can see here, I am starting with old black t-shirt, and I am trying to find out where I want to place my stencil. Now, as you can see, the writing is very big, and I realized that too late. Also here I'm just putting a notebook into the shirt, so it could be a nice hard a nice hard surface to work with, and that's just so I can make sure the letters are nice and elevated, and I don't, I'm not moving the t-shirt all around, just to keep everything in place. As you can see here, I already taped everything down, and I'm starting to go in with the acrylic paint. I just used a kind of like, I think it's a makeup sponge that I used, but it's one of the disposable ones, so it's not one that I'm going to use on my face again. It was one that was, already used and whatever. So here is when I started realizing that the acrylic paint was not my best choice. As you can see, it's just coming out really cloudy. I tried not to overthink it, and I was like, I just need another layer, no big deal. But the small the small little container of acrylic paint would not be enough anyway, so I just put a little bit more on there, kind of trying to give it a marble effect. Okay, here is finally, I'm done with the bleach. What I did, I would just spray the bleach over the stencil, as you can see, so you see the white paint and the bleach. And also what I did was I did some holes while I was away. I just scraped them in, or I cut some through, and some of them I also cut multiple lines and then just stretched it out so it can kind of look like the ribbed effect, I guess. Here I'm just taking my spray bottle, and I am spraying over that as well, because I want layers, and the longer you leave the bleach on, the more effect it's going to have. So try and do it in layers, maybe do a couple of spritz, wait maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then do more, so you can have different just different shades, I guess. Okay. So here I left it for about, I left it for about 10 minutes, and then as you can see, I kept spraying a little bit more, and I changed the nozzle on my spray bottle. I changed it to a more fine spray, I guess. Instead of like a spritz that goes everywhere, I changed it to like a stream. and I wanted it to give it, I just wanted to have like a lot of variety in the kind of splatters that I had on my shirt. I didn't want it just to look like, you know, all fuzzy and I don't know. But I'm trying to like air dry it as much as I can so I can keep adding layers. Okay, and now I am on to the sides and back. I was not sure if I wanted to do the sides and the back or what I wanted to do, but I decided to do it. But I just decided to do it very lightly. Here I'm just making sure I get the sides so there is no sharp, I guess no sharp edges. I don't want it to be like, you know, bleach and then absolutely no bleach, you know, a little too spotty. So I made sure I got the sides and I folded it up on that crease so I can, you know, kind of mend it together. And I'm doing the exact same thing for the back. I'm just spraying it with, changing the nozzles, and I'm just giving it a, you know, time to set in and maybe change color or get a little brighter or whatever the case may be. Now on the back, I didn't really do any holes. I don't know, I didn't feel like it was necessary. You're not going to really be able to see them, and I don't want holes throughout my entire shirt, so. Okay, here is when my shirt, I actually rinsed my shirt out with cold water already at this point, and it dried. And now here is my finished product, but I obviously wanted to tweak it a little bit. So here I am getting a thread and some needle. I'm getting a needle and some thread, and I'm going to stitch up one of these holes because it was a little bit too big and it just looked like, you know, kind of saggy, and I didn't want that. So I'm just trying to loosely stitch it up so it can obviously look like hand sewn. It can look very, I just didn't want it neat at all, so I didn't mind the fact that I had to do it with my needle and thread. So what I did, I just sewed up one of the corners nice and tight, and then I slowly started getting looser and looser. And in the middle here, I had to get a new piece of thread because that one wasn't long enough. But now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to do very loose stitches, and I'm going to kind of do like zigzag so it can look like, you know, so you can still see through the hole, so you can still see my skin through the hole. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of going over each stitch maybe once or twice so the thread could look a little bit thicker. I don't want just like, you know, the thin flimsy piece of string hanging there because I feel like it would break anyway over time. So I went over it about 2 or 3 times so I could get the desired look. And here you just see me tying everything off and cutting off the small excess pieces of thread. Okay, so that is the finished look of that hole. And here, as you can see, I still was not pleased with as many holes as I had. So here I'm just making more holes.